Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Global. We'll get you top stories from India and the region. I'm Shubhendu Ghosh, and for news from the rest of the world, I'm joined by my colleague Ollie Barrett in London. Hey Ollie, good to see you.
Hello Shubhendu, it's 12:30 p.m. here in London, 1:30 p.m. across Central Europe. Coming up in the next half an hour, US Congress passes a long-delayed bill on foreign aid, Blinken in China, and horses on the loose in London. First, the headlines.
National Conference on Disaster Resilient Infrastructure. Prime Minister Narendra Modi says we must invest in resilient infrastructure today for a better tomorrow. US Senate passes $95 billion aid package for Ukraine, Israel and Taiwan. Also clears TikTok's divestment or ban bill. President Biden likely to sign package on Wednesday. Israel steps up strikes across Gaza. UN and the US flag concerns over reports of mass graves. Israel calls it baseless. A two-day international conference on disaster resilient infrastructure began in New Delhi on Wednesday. The conference serves as a premier gathering for Coalition for Disaster Resilient Infrastructure, an international body established by India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi.
His background in diplomacy and
International Conference on Disaster Resilient Infrastructure (ICDRI) opened on Wednesday at the Bharat Mandapam in New Delhi. The ICDRI is the flagship event of the Coalition for Disaster Resilient Infrastructure, an international organization launched by Prime Minister of India in 2019. Inaugurating the event virtually, Prime Minister Narendra Modi highlighted that damages to infrastructure system caused by disasters are reported in dollars, but the true impact is felt by people and communities.
We must invest in resilient infrastructure today for better tomorrow. Resilience needs to be factored into new infrastructure creation. Further, it also needs to be a part of post-disaster rebuilding.
Prime Minister also congratulated CDRI on its rapid growth since 2019 and its programs which are supporting the development of resilient infrastructure, including across 13 small island developing states. CDRI currently has 46 members. The theme of ICDRI 2024 is Investing Today for a More Resilient Tomorrow.
To achieve the Sustainable Development Goals, to reach net zero and strengthen resilience by 2050 amounts to $9.2 trillion US. If we do not design resilience into our project pipelines, it will be increasingly difficult to achieve the high levels of funding needed to close the infrastructure deficit, particularly in the global south.
The two-day event that brings together governments, the global infrastructure community, multilateral development banks, the private sector to support the development of disaster-resilient infrastructure. Taposh Bhattacharya's report, DD India.
United States has cleared mega aid package for its allies in conflict, namely Ukraine, Israel and Taiwan. Ollie Barrett is in London, gives us more on this and other stories making headlines around the world. Ollie, what details do you have on US aid for its allies?
Well, Shubhendu, in the end, it had overwhelming bipartisan support, with the US Senate approving that $95 billion foreign aid package. It includes military support for Ukraine, Israel and Taiwan. The Senate approved it by 79 votes to 18. Four bills which had been passed by the House of Representatives on Saturday and which were combined into one package which President Joe Biden is signing into law on Wednesday. The package has allotted $61 billion for Ukraine, $26 billion for Israel, and over $8 billion to US allies in the Indo-Pacific.
When Putin escalated his war against Ukraine, I told our colleagues that allies and adversaries alike would pay very close attention to America's response. When Iran-backed terrorists invaded the Jewish state on October 7th to slaughter innocent Israelis, I warned that the world would watch closely for signs that American leadership was actually weakening. For months, our friends have watched to see whether America still had the strength that won the Cold War or the resolve that has underpinned peace and prosperity literally for decades.
DD India's Sarah Coates sent us this report from Tel Aviv.
$17 billion in wartime assistance for Israel. $4 billion of that will be going towards things like the Iron Dome missile defense system to replenish these systems. Another $13 billion has been earmarked for defensive objectives. Well, we can expect some $9 billion to go to humanitarian efforts in Gaza, but here's the point, other war-torn areas. So this is not all going to Gaza, Ramesh. Analysts predict some $2 million of that $9 billion will be going to the Palestinian enclave.
Meanwhile, China's Taiwan Affairs Office is urging the US not to support Taiwan independence, as it calls it, and to stop arming Taiwan in any way.
The Taiwan issue is purely China's internal affair and does not tolerate any external interference. The relevant bill in the US Congress includes Taiwan-related content, seriously violates the One China principle. We resolutely oppose it. We urge the United States to take concrete actions to honor its commitment not to support Taiwan independence and stop arming Taiwan in any way.
Well, all of this as US Secretary of State Antony Blinken is in China on a 3-day visit. Blinken's in Shanghai, where he's meeting business leaders to begin with. Then he'll visit Beijing on Friday for talks with his counterpart, Foreign Minister Wang Yi. He's also expected to meet President Xi Jinping. China has railed against the US assistance for Taiwan and condemned the move as a dangerous provocation. It also says it strongly opposes efforts to force TikTok's sale. Israeli airstrikes and shelling from tanks on the ground have been reported in northern, central and southern areas of the Gaza Strip. Israeli Defense Forces says it targeted Hamas rocket launching positions in the southern Gaza Strip following new intelligence information. The army ordered fresh evacuations in 4 zones in northern Gaza's Beit Lahir, warning civilians they are in a dangerous combat zone. Israel has procured thousands of tents for Palestinian civilians that it intends to evacuate from Rafah in the coming weeks. According to Israeli government sources, after weeks of talks with the United States about civilian safeguards, Israel's defense ministry has bought 40,000 tents, each with the capacity to accommodate 10 to 12 people, for Palestinians being relocated from Rafah. Amidst reports of mass graves in Gaza, Israel says bodies discovered there were not buried by Israeli soldiers, but it claims by Palestinians. Describing allegations against Israeli forces as baseless and unfounded, Israel said soldiers only examined the bodies in the grave in search of Israeli hostages. It says the dignity of the deceased was respected and the bodies of Palestinians were returned. The US State Department says the reports are concerning.
And the reports are incredibly troubling, and we're inquiring on this with the government of Israel.
Specifically on that?
Correct. I don't have any specific information to offer, insight into what this is or isn't. I don't have a sense of that from up here, but we are inquiring about this with the government.
Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov says Russia will further expand its so-called buffer zone inside Ukraine if Kiev takes delivery of longer-range missiles from the United States that would allow it to strike deeper inside Russia. The US is preparing a $1 billion military aid package for Ukraine, the first to come from the Ukraine Israel bill we've been discussing. A number of horses have been running loose around central London earlier, not something you see here every day, believe me. 5 household cavalry horses bolted and ran loose while exercising at Horse Guards Parade, which is the ceremonial parade ground in Westminster. One of the horses was covered in blood. The London Ambulance Service was called in after around 5 people were injured at 3 different London locations. The 2 horses were later contained by police. As I say, Shibendu, not something you see every day. Back to you.
That's right, Oliver. Thanks very much for joining us with those updates. And day after his aide was arrested on suspicion of spying for China, German member of European Parliament Maximilian Krah has refused to step down. He said that he would sack the staffer who had been accused of passing information about discussions in the EU legislature to Chinese intelligence. Germany has been rocked by a spying scandal. The member of European Parliament's aide is among 4 people arrested on suspicion of spying for China. Earlier, 2 persons were arrested on suspicion for spying for Russia. Meanwhile, Krah, who is the far-right alternative for Germany's party's top candidate in the upcoming European Parliament elections, has said he wouldn't be participating in campaigning for now.
If you now believe that this is the end of me being the top candidate of my party, then I have to disappoint you. I am and will remain the top EU candidate. What matters is now that we refocus the election campaign on European issues and move away from this ultimately very unpleasant manner.
And for the latest, DW correspondent Nicole Flolik is joining us live from Berlin. Nicole, what do we know about these alleged spies?
Well, Shibendu, it's been quite a week here in Germany. Not only one spying scandal, several. At this point, really, there are more questions than answers. The first arrest came on Thursday of last week, the suspects being 2 dual German-Russian citizens alleged to have coordinated with Moscow to carry out sabotage attacks on industrial and military infrastructure in Germany, linked all of those to the training of Ukrainian soldiers. One of those alleged spies actually fought against Ukraine in the area of Donetsk, which was illegally annexed by Russia in 2022, and that is how the authorities caught on to him. On Monday, then, 3 German citizens were arrested suspected of supplying information on military technology to a Chinese intelligence service. The prosecutor says 2 of them ran a company that partnered with a university here in Germany to study advances in the technological sector that could be used for military equipment. They're also accused of illegally exporting a laser that doesn't sound so grave to begin with, but that laser is considered a dual-use item, so a civilian object that can be used for military purposes. But the real bombshell arrest came on Tuesday. You already mentioned it there when it became known that a longtime aide to a far-right politician, Maximilian Krah, who just so happens to be the top candidate for his party in the upcoming European elections, had also been taken into custody on spying charges. He is being described as a direct employee of the Chinese Secret Service, and his case is considered especially severe, with him passing on information about negotiations and decisions in the European Parliament and spying on Chinese opposition members here in Germany. Now, the MEP Maximilian Krah himself, whose party is flying high in polls here in Germany, is quite tight-lipped about the matter, but calls for consequences are rife. He refuses to step down, but many question how realistic it is that he, who has raised eyebrows through his links to China as well as Russia in the past, really knew nothing of his staffer's double identity.
And how are the German authorities then assessing these developments? How big is the collective threat?
Well, especially this last case has, of course, sent shockwaves through the country. The German Interior Minister has called it an attack on European democracy from within, and she's not alone in her assessment. The head of Germany's domestic intelligence agency told DW in an exclusive interview that the current threat level is comparable to that of the Cold War. But it's not only Russian and Chinese spying that has German authorities on high alert. It's also the threat of an Islamist terror attack as Germany heads into hosting the European Football Championship this summer, and Paris gets ready for the Olympics. Now, the German intelligence chief tells us there is information about the Islamic State Khorasan province group encouraging attacks similar to the ones in Paris and Brussels, both of them devastating, of course, a couple of years ago. Your viewers might remember. The most likely scenarios are believed to be those involving foreign hit teams that could have already infiltrated the country, planning big attacks, or domestically radicalized individuals, or lone wolves as they're known, setting out on smaller scale attacks like the ones we've seen more often in recent years here in Europe. The situation, of course, all the more volatile because of the crisis in the Middle East. German authorities insist they are well prepared and well enough coordinated to thwart any terror plots. Similar messaging coming out of Paris, but that might not be enough to quell the unease of those planning their visits to these mass events.
Nicole, thank you for joining us with those updates. And still to come on DT India Global. The latest from India's election summer. And Athens' sky turns orange as dust from Sahara Desert covers the city.
We just don't bring you the news as it unfolds. We get to the heart of the matter.
We don't just present facts, we demystify complex social, political and economic events.
We break stories that shape the world's present and future because you deserve the truth.
I am Tanvi Taneja from New Delhi.
I'm Ollie Barrett from London.
I'm Nick Harper from Washington, D.C.
Join us on DD India Global Monday to Friday at these times.
Welcome back. You're watching DT India Global. I'm Shubhendu Ghosh. And let's now get you the latest on the world's largest democratic elections in India. India's 88 parliamentary constituencies across 13 states will go to polls in the second phase of voting on 26th of April. This campaigning concludes on Wednesday. We bring you an exclusive report from the hilly area of Dalai in the northeastern Indian state of Tripura. It's about Riangs, also known as the Bru community. The Brus will go to polls for the first time on 26th April. DD India's Deepika Mato gets us more.
Tripura is a home to around 12,000 people of the Bru or Riang community, which is indigenous to northeast India. For the first time, Bru refugees will participate in the upcoming Lok Sabha elections as they were given permanent settlement in Tripura in January 2020.
You can see the flags behind me of the Promoter Party, who is supporting the BJP, and the BJP candidate belongs from the Promoter Party. And we also have the flag of CPIM, which is the opposition. So branding is everywhere at every nook and corner ahead of the Lok Sabha elections 2024.
The Dhalai camp of Bru is home to around 2,800 people, out of which around 1,100 are female and 1,700 are male.
हम लोग यहाँ पर रह रहा है 19 अप्रैल 2021 से, तो अभी मैक्सिमम हम लोग का 2 साल हो चुका है। तो यहाँ पर हम लोग का 440 फैमिली है। यहाँ पर हम लोग घर भी मिल गया, सब पानी भी मिल गया, रास्ता सब मिल गया, कारण भी मिल गया।
The Brus here are now the official citizens of Tripura and will go to vote on 26th of April. First-time voters are excited to be a part of the electoral exercise and also have some pressing demands.
कारण अच्छे से मिलना चाहिए, कभी-कभी बंद हो जाते हैं, बिजली नहीं मिलते अच्छे से, और पानी अच्छा मिलना है, अभी अच्छा से नहीं मिलता है, कारण ज़्यादा अच्छा नहीं आने के टाइम में।
The settlement has access to a school currently set up in temporary structure.
We have with us one of the teacher. Thank you so much for talking to us. When we talk about this Bru settlement, it is really happy to see that you are also teaching students over here. How many students do you teach?
We are having here 260 students.
When you will go to polling, what are the issues that you are looking at?
Actually, looking for the issues that the government provide us good schools and good environments for our students to teach them such a way that to come in their future bright with good education.
The Rayangs keep themselves involved in jhum cultivation, a traditional shifting cultivation technique prevalent in the northeast India.
The scene looks very picturesque over here, but behind these beautiful scenes, there are many challenges which are still here in this Bru settlement region. But with the coming of the Lok Sabha elections, because this is the first time that they would be going out to vote here for the Lok Sabha elections, they are also excited as well, and they really look forward to more development, especially for the Rayangs, who are also known as Bru here on the top hill. With camera person Kumar Datta, this is Deepika reporting for DD India from northeastern part of Tripura, and this is the topmost hill where the Bru settlement is placed.
Former Deputy Chief Minister of Karnataka, Dr. Ashwath Narayan, has said Congress government is misleading people by giving false statements on distribution of wealth to minorities and creating confusion in the minds of voters. He said the election in Karnataka will prove BJP stands for social justice for all, as well as BJP is set to win all the seats in the state, he claims.
I have with me Dr. Ashwath Narayan, who is the former Deputy Chief Minister. Ashwath Narayan ji, tell us the fact that this campaign is now, coming towards, it's steering the track. Now it is coming to complete appeasement, appeasement politics, which you have been cornering the Siddaramaiah government always. So how do you see, this entire campaign having an impact on the people?
People should not be confused. Here it is not the state election, it is the national election. So the entire country wants Modi. Modi has to come back to the power. He should be again the Prime Minister. That is the wish of the people. Here the Congress party, as a culture, the different culture, different countries have got. The people who have sweat, worked hard, given their blood, earned money, they have paid tax. And why again? They want to take away their asset. The Congress party wants to take away the asset people who have earned.
The Retail Summit 2024 is a leading global event focused on future of retail, is underway in Dubai with the agenda built around 8 key themes. These themes aim to address critical challenges and opportunities faced by retailers worldwide. This year's TRS will delve into areas including artificial intelligence, brick-and-mortar stores, data, digital transformation, macroeconomics, supply chain management, sustainability, ethics and talent acquisition. The Federation of Indian Chambers of Commerce and Industry, FICCI, is an industry partner of the Retail Summit. The two-day event focuses on understanding current consumer trends and how modern tech can enhance customer experiences. The summit's goal is to generate impactful discussions and provide actionable insights to support the retail sector's growth.
We are basically showcasing our products which are made in India and 100% made in India. So we do a lot of backward integration, a lot of technology being used for the products that we manufacture back in India. And we thought that now that we already have our footprint in India and other countries as well, so we wanted to expand our horizons, and that is why we are here today at the Retail Summit in Dubai.
Let's now turn to other stories making news around the world. Athens' sky turns orange as dust from Sahara Desert covers the city in Greece on Tuesday. The Greek Met Service have said the dust would subside on Wednesday. Moreover, they've also warned that the dust concentrations can reduce sunlight and visibility, while increasing levels of fine pollution particles also poses health risks. Parisians warm up for Olympics with sports session at Louvre Museum. The museum on Tuesday hosted its first session of Run in the Louvre. The session was an opportunity for visitors to do sports among artworks in a deserted museum. Australian police arrested 7 juveniles across Sydney in a joint counter-terror operation on Wednesday after stabbing of a religious leader in Sydney Church. More than 400 police officers executed 13 search warrants at properties across southwest Sydney. And before we close, we take you to Russia, where young Russians flock to anime festivals and dance to K-pop in eastward shift. Take a look. With that, it's a wrap on this edition of DD India Global. Those of you on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates on DD India mobile app. This app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. You can scan this QR code on the screen to download now. And let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X and Instagram. You can also check out our website, ddindia.co.in. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Shubhendu Ghosh from all of us here in New Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India Global. Namaskar.